Good morning. It's now December 9th, and a light snow is falling right now. But it's been snowing, and hopefully things will clear up. Oh, maybe I'll have some lemon tea. I got this at the Korean store, and it helps a lot better. Neo Citron says they have lemon flavor and a whole bunch of other chemicals, and I don't know if we really need them or not, but I'll give that a try. I enjoy it, but I've always enjoyed lemony flavor. But we'll be right back. Grab your coffee, tea, lemon drink, whatever you want, and we'll be right back. Hi, Violet Desmond. I certainly, or Violetta Desmond. It was a civil rights leader in Nova Scotia. And what really kind of got under my skin was not that the Canadian Mint was making these new Canadian dollars to have women on them. And I guess it was announced that she is now going to be the first woman that the Canadian Mint is going to put on a bill. Well, yes and no. The first woman to be put on the Canadian dollar bill was the Queen, so that kind of shoots that out. But what really kind of gets under my skin was someone's describing what she did as a Canadian Rosa Parks. Why does it always have to be compared with someone in the States? Ms. Desmond went into a theater and wanted to buy a ticket for the lower orchestra, I guess it was called, and was told she couldn't because she was black. Well, that opens up so many cans of worms that she should not be sitting there because she was black. Yes, Rosa Parks did similar things by sitting at a lunch counter where she wasn't, it was a white only. And people don't think that segregation happened in Canada. Look, the head tax that was charged to the people of Chinese descent, where they were coming in to work on the railway. But there was a lot more of it, and in Nova Scotia, it was obvious that a black woman, and I keep saying that if you peel back the skin, the muscles look the same, the teeth look the same. There's no real evidence that blacks are different than whites. A lot of blacks in the States and in Canada don't excel at anything because they're socially given less than a white family is. And the opportunities in the States are true. And when I was with LensCrafters, yes, the glass people, we would go on missions. And I went on 2 missions. One was to Mexico, and the other was to Chicago. Yeah. And we went and they went and then they would go and we'd match the frames with lenses, and then they'd go and get made at a LensCrafters, which was close to them. But while I was there, you could really see the social divide. And there were some private school kids that would come and get glasses. We were open to all kids, but they had to be in the morning. They couldn't be with the black kids. And, I thought, oh, okay. And, there were times when the black kids started to come in, and you could see that the teachers with these kids were kind of, okay, let's go. We got to get going. And there were other public schools that were fine. But, people say they want to get back to the old times. They want to make America great, or, they want to do this. What they're really sort of telling me is they want to get back to segregation. They want to, it's pretty well the white supremacists. And we see this a lot, and I've done talks on it. But I think we really have to stop playing second fiddle to the states. She was a lady who came in, decided she wanted to watch a movie in the lower orchestra. But, oh no, she had to go sit in the back of the theater. And the police came, and, everyone came around and watched her being arrested. I'm glad we've changed nowadays, that people can sit wherever they want. But I guess segregation is a part of our history. And you know what? When I went through school, I did not learn of her. And I'm hoping that kids nowadays are going to learn about this. That it shouldn't just be about her. I think there's about 6 other women that were up for consideration. But so many of these women aren't discussed. Now, in Canada, how Canadian and how the men, Sir John A. Macdonald and Laurier, how they built up the Canada. But we don't hear of the women. And I think, the Americans started Black History Month. And I think it's kind of spread in Canada, which is great. I mean, we know that blacks have been misrepresented in our books, our novels, whatever. But so have women. Women have missed the place where we discuss. We always take a look, and it's all because in the 1800s and 1700s, men ruled the world. Whatever they wanted to do, that was great. But, there are women who have contributed, and Violetta Desmond was one of these. She did not believe that she should be held in contempt. She challenged a law which was wrong. And I don't know, I think we will see a lot of this in the new presidency down there, because the supporters of Donald Trump, keep saying, oh, they want to make America great. What they're really saying is they want to put all the other cultures which make up the melting pot of the United States, they want to merge them all together. And A, that's wrong, and they want to kind of, oh well, we have a better, it's just Canada's answer to Rosa Parks. Well, you know what Rosa Parks did was so great to move racial equality out there. But just comparing her to Violetta Desmond isn't the same. They're both great in their own right. Yet we keep comparing to America. Canada is great. Canada has its own heroes, and we should be grateful for those heroes. They did an awful lot for us. But why do we always sort of have to gauge, well, there was Rosa Parks, and she was awesome, and she did this, and she brought... There are other women out there, or other men out there, who were doing their own certain things, and I'm not belittling the men, but I just hate that every time something happens, we have to take a look at, oh well, the Americans did that, the Americans did great. Well, you know what? The Americans may have done great, but so did the Canadians. And just because there wasn't an awful lot of TV and everything. Actually, I think she did this earlier. I think she did it with around the 30s. But, I don't think we need to compare. All these women, men, whatever, did something strong for their country's civil rights movement. But we just have to make sure that we don't get back to society where whites can, get all the privileges and blacks and Mexicans and whatever don't seem to get any. It's something we have to watch. Christmas trees. There seems to be a shortage of U.S. Christmas trees. Why in Canada, when we have extensive trees all around, do we have to end up buying U.S. Christmas trees? Well, I guess it's the same as if we buy Canadian trees, or people who want to go out and get a real Canadian Christmas tree. But, men just keep whining, I like to have the original Christmas trees. Well, I used to like, the one thing I miss is the aroma. But having, saving a tree that just sort of is up there for, okay, we'll say if you get out and get your tree by the 1st of December, it's up in your house for a short period of time. But why do we have to get a real Christmas tree? People want these all the time. And I don't know if it's that great. I mean, a lot of the trees now are, the perfect sort of picturesque. And, they look all pretty perfect. But people want to have the real thing. They want to have, pretty much still today, people sort of want the Victorian Christmas. And everyone wants a white Christmas Well, in Vancouver, we rarely get it. We're getting some now, but we have to take a look at using it. How many trees would we be saving? We keep worrying about greenhouse gases and, oxygen that the trees keep producing. But, the price is dictated by the states. And, they say that there's a problem with hazelnuts, and that's why the price goes up because the land's being used for hazelnuts. And, I don't think we should be racing out there and spending out, what is it, $10 to $25 for a tree that you're only going to have probably less than a month. Now, most people today tend to have the tree up for a long period of time, which is great. And gone are sort of like the days where, oh well, December 24th, let's put up the Christmas decoration. And then Boxing Day, let's take it all down. Nowadays, most trees are up until well into the new year. The 12th day of Christmas is actually the January 6th, when it's also known as Ukrainian Christmas. But why are we out there still cutting down trees? I mean, there's a lot down by where I get my prescriptions filled. And I said, really? You're going to sell trees? And then, they say it's going to a charity, which is great. However, I don't think we need to cut down trees every year so we can look at them and say, oh, isn't it wonderful? When if you spend out the money and buy, they call them fake trees, imitation trees, whatever, it's much better use. So, it's something to think about when it comes time to decorate your home. Do you need a new tree that's being cut down and taken out of the environmental cycle? Or can you look at the perfect recreation, which in the long run would probably save you money? Something to think about. I hear, oh, let's make America first. And, well, this Christmas, why don't you look for gifts that were actually made by Canadians anywhere in Canada? So often, everything now is made in the States or by a subsidiary in Canada. And you know what? I think we've got to really start buying Canadian. And, I know we all can go to the 7-Eleven and everything's so convenient. But I think, where most of our money is being taken out of the country. And we have to be aware of, everything's going into the pots of the Americans, and everything is American control. Well, in fact, 7-Eleven is owned by a Japanese corporation. But, I still think Canada is kind of pushed to the side, and, if there's some big magical thing happening in the States, and the bottom falls out of their economic world, all the Canadian companies follow suit and say, oh, well, there's a recession. We've got to keep sending the money to the States. I know everyone wants the newest iPhone, but why do we always need a brand new iPhone? Oh, well, the iPhone 7's out. Well, that's all a big marketing program. How many Canadian companies have the US pushed out? And, all their subsidiaries. You go buy an Apple phone or whatever, and you go to the Apple store and everything, all the money gets shipped back to Apple in the States. And, I don't think we should be doing this. I think we really should be supporting Canadians and real Canadian products. There's an awful lot, like if you want to buy a furniture, like a couch, I know there's places around here where they actually make it. There's an awful lot of places where you can buy tickets, and it's right now, unfortunately, it's hard to get out there and just buy a Canadian product because it's all being controlled by the States. And I really believe that we as Canadians should be out there looking to use our money to buy things Canadian. Now, if we started buying stuff and, making stuff to sell, and it wouldn't be sort of like, I've heard all these things, oh, Canada's going to be sideswiped by the States, and if we took care of ourselves and, started to build up our own products, and, Canadian brands have been bought out by the States, and, they pretty well have made it just the States. Apple has been up here for years, and, they may come in and they may make a Canadian company, but all the money goes back to the States. So when are we going to wake up and start doing business for Canadians and helping out Canadians? If you can't get out there and make something, well, make sure that you're buying something that at least some of the money stays in Canada. Things like Save on Foods is all Canadian, and don't get paid to say that, but they are, and I'm sure right across Canada there are companies that do this exact same thing. So why don't we get our checkbooks out, and if you are going to buy gifts or whatever, buy Canadian? Sounds like a good deal here. So, just get out and do it. Okay, now this comes from CBC, that there's a guy who went to a Surrey dance in 2007 and was attacked by other teens that had a beer bottle and a hatchet. And well, anyway, during the attack, he was made quadriplegic, and he's now suing the province for not keeping up with the cost of living. And I'm sure many groups are going to be looking at this, and I've talked about this in the past, that province doesn't keep up with the cost of living for people who need the disability. Now, I don't know if the Canadian Pension Plan has helped this, but there are so many agencies popping up saying, oh yes, we'll help you get your money. Well, you lose so much. And if you are a true person with disabilities, you can get proper care through CPP. A lot of these other groups are sort of saying, well, we can put this in, and oh, you have a headache. Oh, do your headaches go for more than one day? Oh yes, yes, you have terrible migraines. And they know how to write these things, so the adjusters can just put it through. Myself, I went through. Who did I go through? I went through an agency, a free agency here, that made sure I got what was entitled to me. But, most I get is $989 a month. And that's from partly CPP and the rest matched by the provincial government. But I would love to say that there's been an increase, but there hasn't been an increase since. So this guy, the province hasn't kept up with his cost of living, so they put strain on the disabled. Now, I know CPP, I've been on it for 3 years now. I know just after I got on it, CPP went through a major checking into everyone. And an awful lot of these companies had disappeared. And people now have to do it themselves or get help from a family member. But still, CPP does increase year from year. Now, I can understand the governments, and whether it be our provincial government or the federal government, not wanting to make disability so attractive that everyone will want to do it. But there are people that are always going to cheat the system. And I think that's what a lot of people think about disability. Now, in this man's case, he can't work. He's a quadriplegic. And not many people are willing to open up and say, oh, well, yes, his mind's still good. So, because of that, he can't find work. And I think, we have to, if a person can legitimately not work, then he or she needs to find out what's available for him. Now, this gentleman in the story, says that his medical expenses outweigh what the province is paying. And I have to pay for some of my medication because it's not covered by the pharmacare. And it's not covered by the pharmacare because it won't. The A1C, which I think I explained before, which is the report card for diabetics, it doesn't change that. But for myself, I have to use the fast acting insulin to get into my system and get out so that I won't have lows. And tonight, just before we went on, I had a severe low. And, I can't really be in a place for money, and not because I'll take it, because when I was with Save On, they know I'd be getting low because people were coming up and say, I have too much change. So, working and would be great, but I don't know when I'm going to be low. Like, if I went back and let's say I worked with my old job at 7-Eleven, if I was left alone in the store, my blood sugar could crash. So that's my reasoning. So a lot of you have asked, well, why don't you just get out and work? Well, that's why. A lot of companies don't want people that don't fit into their 100% mold. So there's they wonder why people don't report extra money. Well, a lot of times it's because they can barely afford to live. Right now, with the amount I get from CPP and the province, I can barely afford to eat. A lot of times I have to go to a food bank. Sorry, I couldn't think of the name. And you have to stand out in the freezing cold, or I've had friends who come and will buy groceries for me. But an awful lot of people seem to think, well, if he just worked, he would. Well, it's difficult to find a job. But, I've worked hard over the years. And just because I have a condition which doesn't allow me to work doesn't mean that I should be racing around trying to live off basically nothing. Yes, I have my tea tonight. I have a sore throat too. So we need to be aware, and we need to make sure people who can't work have at least a livable wage. You try to just take $9.87 out of your paycheck. Okay? And the rest you can put in savings. And then try to live off that. Most of the people who govern our laws don't even want to do it. So what sort of message? You want our votes at election time, but you won't let us live. And a lot of us are, you know, able to live in family homes, and, the rent, you take out your rent, you don't have much. So, this is something we really have to take a look at. And not that we're just in the Christmas season. Something to really think about. Okay, I hope you're safe, and, if you have to go to work today, that you're safe in doing it. So don't be a fool out there. I went to my doctor today, or yesterday, sorry, not today. And it was a visit I had to do, and, I nearly tipped a couple of times. People aren't shoveling, and the ones that really kind of annoy me are, the city says, well, everyone's got to do it by a certain time, or they're subject to a $250 fine. And then, I don't know if any of you know, but Central Park, there's part of it that goes along Kingsway. And people need that as access. People come down there from the SkyTrain, and there's nowhere to park. Not park, but just to get to doctors or whatever. So, Burnaby, if you're going to charge people $250, then you should be charged for not doing your walks. Anyway, have a great day, and we'll be back tomorrow.